Okay, let's get right into it. Right now, something huge is happening, a massive, and I mean multi-trillion yen shift. And it's all going on quietly behind the scenes of Japan's economy. It's changing who owns the very companies you see and use every single day, from the biggest household names right down to the shop on your corner. In this explainer, we're going to pull back that curtain.
So to kick things off, I've got a question for you. Think about this for a second. What could an iconic fried chicken chain, a fancy outdoor brand, and the animal hospital down the street possibly have in common? I know it sounds like the start of a bad joke, but the answer, well, it tells us a ton about the future of business here in Japan.
All right, here it is. The answer is they've all been bought out recently. And not by just anyone, but by a new class of owner, private equity funds. You've probably heard the term thrown around, but trust me, their influence is just exploding, and it's happening faster than most people realize.
So what exactly are these things? Well, to put it simply, they're investment funds. They pool together a whole lot of money to buy companies. But here's the key. They don't plan to own them forever. The goal is to jump in, help the company grow, improve how it works, and basically pump up its value. Then, usually in about 5 to 10 years, they sell it for a profit. You can think of them as professional company transformers.
To really wrap your head around the scale of this, we've got to look at what these funds are actually, well, buying. And let me tell you, their shopping list is all over the place. And frankly, some of the items on it are probably going to surprise you.
Of course, they're snapping up the huge, famous companies that you'd recognize instantly. For instance, the investment giant Carlyle recently finished its takeover of Nippon KFC Holdings. Yep, that KFC. It's a pretty powerful reminder that the ownership of even our most familiar brands can and does change.
And we're not just talking about fast food. No, this goes all the way to the very top of the corporate ladder. I'm talking about industrial titans. The legendary Toshiba was taken private in a landmark deal, led by a fund called Japan Industrial Partners. That right there shows you the incredible financial firepower we're dealing with.
But you know what? Here's where the story gets really fascinating. The giant deals get all the headlines, but the real story, the one that affects pretty much everyone, is happening quietly. It's in the takeovers of all those small and medium-sized businesses. You know, the ones that are the true backbone of Japan's economy.
I mean, the sheer variety of what's being bought is, wow. For instance, a company called Woolly. What do? They make specialized food and health supplements for pet rabbits. I'm not kidding. It's the perfect example of a super niche, maybe family-run business that's now being managed by a professional investment fund.
Or how about this one? Miyamoto Butsudan 10. It's a traditional company that sells Buddhist altars and religious items. You can't get much more traditional than that, right? This is a business steeped in centuries of history, now entering a totally new chapter with fund ownership.
And it's not just the old-school companies. They're also targeting modern, direct-to-consumer brands. You might have seen Walk on your social media feed. They sell all that popular, affordable camping gear. And yep, you guessed it, they've also been bought by a fund.
This trend hits even closer to home, right in our local communities. Even the Kawachi Animal Hospital is part of this wave. What's happening is that funds are buying up independent vet clinics to create larger, more efficient networks. This really proves the point. These new owners are showing up on Main Street, not just in the big financial center.
So this all raises a huge question. Why is this all happening right now? Why are so many different kinds of owners, from massive corporations to small family shops, deciding that now is the time to sell?
Look, every single deal is unique, of course. But when you zoom out, the motivations usually fall into one of three main buckets. So let's break them down. First up, there's the takeover bid, or TOB. This is when a fund goes to a public company and basically says, we want to buy up all your shares and take you private. A huge recent example of this is the education company Benesse Holdings, you know, the folks behind Shinken Zemi. They were taken private by the fund EQT, so they could navigate some big, long-term changes away from the constant pressure of the stock market.
Second, you have what's known as a carve-out. This happens when a giant conglomerate, let's say like Sony, decides to sell off one of its divisions that isn't really core to its main business strategy. For instance, the global fund Blackstone just recently carved out Sony Payment Services.
It's a win-win, really. Sony gets to focus on what it does best, and the payment division gets specialized attention and a ton of investment to grow all on its own.
And number 3, this one is a massive, massive driver in Japan. It's called business succession. We have so many founders who are reaching retirement age, but they just don't have anyone to pass the company down to. So these funds step in to offer a solution. The most dramatic recent case has to be the creation of W Cars, a whole new company backed by J-Wool Partners, which stepped in to take over the entire business of the scandal-plagued Big Motor, saving thousands of jobs and giving the company a chance to start over.
Okay, so we've looked at what's being bought and why. Now let's zoom out and see where all this money is actually flowing. If you analyze the data from hundreds of these recent deals, you start to see some very clear patterns about which industries are attracting the most cash.
When you dig into the data, you can see exactly where investors see the biggest potential for growth. And 3 sectors are clearly leading the pack. Number 1, construction and real estate. Number 2, information and communications, so that's everything from software to IT services. And number 3, healthcare and elderly care, a direct response to Japan's changing demographics. This is basically a map of where the smart money is betting on the future.
So this naturally brings us to the investors themselves. Who are the key players, the main funds, that are driving this whole multi-trillion yen trend?
Now, while there are dozens of firms out there, if you look at the sheer number of deals done since 2023, you see a few key names over and over again. You've got your homegrown Japanese powerhouses like J-Star and Advantage Partners, alongside global giants like Bain Capital. These 3 firms alone have been behind dozens and dozens of deals, and everything from tech and healthcare to retail and manufacturing. It just shows you how incredibly active they are in this market.
So, what does this all mean for the big picture? The main thing to get is that this isn't just some dry financial trend for investors to talk about. This is a fundamental restructuring of Japan's entire corporate landscape.
Ultimately, it really just boils down to this. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a global giant like Toshiba or a small local shop selling rabbit food. A new class of professional owner is taking the helm, and they're bringing in new money, new strategies, and a whole new pace of change, quietly reshaping the entire economy from the ground up.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty important question to think about. This trend isn't slowing down. If anything, it's accelerating. So it really makes you wonder, as you go about your day, which company that you know, that you rely on, that you love, is going to be the next one to get a new owner?